Chapter 5, Police Management, Part 2. As we continue on talking about police managers and management in general, we can identify different kinds of styles, and there are 4 basic styles of supervisors. Now, maybe some of you have taken business classes, maybe even are trying to get a business major, a business degree, and you may be able to identify a lot more styles than this. But if we look at the 4 basic styles and apply them to policing, we can see how they differ, and we can also soon realize that different styles may be appropriate in different situations. So as we go through the styles, we're probably going to favor one over the others, but realize that the really good manager will have a dominant style, most likely, maybe even a dominant style or 2, but they're probably able to be, they're going to be flexible enough that they're going to be able to do some of the other styles in the appropriate situations too. Because there are times when some of these other styles that maybe we don't like so much, the more traditional styles, they may still be appropriate in under certain circumstances and situations. So let's take a look at the 4 different supervisor styles. The traditional style is one where, essentially, I'm the boss, what I say goes. So my ultimate concern, as you see here, and we're going to go through this with each of the styles, is I'm going to control the subordinates. That's what I see my job really as a supervisor. My job is to control those who are underneath me. Now that doesn't mean I'm constantly putting them down and I'm never complimenting them, although we'll see with this style compliments are often few and far between. My job is to make sure they're doing their job correctly. And so in the traditional style, and for policing, what we often see is this style is more common where law enforcement is really seen as the major mission of the police. So not so much community policing, not so much order maintenance or especially service policing, but law enforcement. So the traditional, I'm the boss, I'm the captain, I'm the sergeant, I'm the whoever, you're underneath me, you're going to respect my rank because I tell you that this is how it's going to be. That's more common where we have this, as I have listed here, aggressive law enforcement. So where we really view our jobs as police officers our jobs are to catch the criminals, detect crime, fight crime, and really emphasize fight crime, so the more aggressive. So we can imagine this style in more of those traditional paramilitary type organizations. They're, as you can see here, they're highly task oriented, and they want measurable outcomes. So what we mean by this is, here are the jobs that you have to do. They're going to tell their subordinates and not give them a whole lot of discretion. We're not giving a lot of autonomy to our personnel. So we're not telling a police officer, here's a broad mission, go out and figure out how to do it, just get the job done. Instead, what traditional managers are more likely to do is lay out every single task. Okay, we're not going to give you a broad mission and let you figure it out. We're going to tell you what to do. And then we're going to try to measure the outcomes in easily measurable ways, such as arrest. So let's count it. Have you been writing enough tickets? So it's not good enough to say, well, but Sarge, I was out doing a community policing project. I wasn't out there arresting people. No, you need to be making arrests. You need to be doing this, X, Y, and Z. And that other stuff, that's kind of touchy-feely. That's, really beyond us. So that's more likely to happen. Not always, but it's more likely to happen under a traditional supervisor. And so again, they're more likely to instruct subordinates, less likely to reward. So here's what you need to do, just go and do it. And when they do it, that the traditional supervisor isn't going to be there patting them on the back nonstop. You did your job, you did what you're supposed to do. You don't need any kinds of, attaboys or attagirls or let's have a big celebration party or anything like that. You did what you were supposed to do. However, if you mess up, these kinds of supervisors are more likely to punish you. So I'm guessing that you've worked under this type of boss at some point, or maybe you've had this kind of coach. They are going to tell you exactly what to do, and they expect you to do it. Even when you do it, don't expect a lot of applause, but if you mess it up, you're going to be sitting the bench, or you're going to get in trouble at work, you're going to get written up, any of these kinds of actions. And when push comes to shove, they're more likely to just take over for the subordinate rather than tell the subordinate, you figure it out. I'm going to give you authority. So very much about, as I said at the very beginning, about control. I'm going to control, I'm going to control, I'm going to control, and micromanaging. Now you might say, well, when would we ever want a traditional manager? And modern management theory really says we probably don't want a traditional manager, but there are times when we do need this kind of manager. Maybe it's a crisis situation, and we need someone who is going to take the lead, and they're going to command. They're going to issue the commands, and they expect people to follow it because you don't have time for discussion. You know, this is a 9/11 type situation. The buildings are literally falling down around us. We don't have time to ask for input. I need to make a decision if I'm the leader, and I expect everybody to follow through. So in that kind of situation, maybe a traditional supervisory style would be best. But over the long term, in more mundane and everyday situations, it's probably not the best. Most people, unless they're the type of person who wants to be told everything, they're probably not going to want to work under a traditional manager. The innovative manager is the person who really wants their officers to grow. They want their officers to try new things. Okay, be willing to back it up and take responsibility if you make a mistake, so they're not just saying take wild risks that are going to fail unquestionably. There's only a 1% chance they're going to succeed. Well, they don't want you to take that kind of risk because that's a foolish risk. But they want you to take calculated risk. Okay, try something different. You have a new idea for this. We've got juvenile crime that we're having a problem with. Arresting these juveniles, taking them into the juvenile system just isn't working very well. You have another plan because you read about something somewhere else. You think it might work? Give it a try. So the traditional supervisor would never tell you to give it a try. But an innovative supervisor would be willing to do that. Okay, give it a shot. See what works. But make sure that you prepare for it. So don't just do it, again, as a wild risk. Make sure it's a calculated risk. As part of this, they're going to try to form relationships with their subordinates. Traditional managers, no. We're in the officers club. You are in the enlisted personnel club. So we're going to separate the officer corps from, as we would do in the military, from the enlisted officers. Well, in a policing department, I'm not going to hang out if I'm a traditional manager. I'm not going to hang out with my patrol officers. I'm going to keep that separation. With the innovative supervisor, they're more likely to form some kind of relationship. They have more of a team approach, less task-oriented, more positive views of their subordinates, but more team-oriented as well. We're going to value your input. Tell us what you know. You have some insight. I'm willing to listen to you. So it's not the traditional, I command, you listen. It's more, ultimately I'm in charge. I have to make the final decisions, but let's hear what you have to say. Come up with some ideas. Pitch them to me. And so again, they have more positive view of subordinates, more likely to maybe reward them, to commend them, to applaud them for a job well done. And in terms of policing, they're more likely to encourage community and problem-oriented policing. We want you to get out there with the community. We want you to solve problems. Use your mind. Use your discretion. I'm your manager, but I'm going to give you a lot of autonomy. I'm going to give you a lot of power to really figure out this situation. Come up with a better idea. At least try. And as part of that, I'm more likely to delegate decision making. I'm more likely to say, okay, here's the general problem. Now go to work and try to figure it out. And I'm going to hand that over to you. I'm still going to have oversight over what you're doing to make sure that you're staying on task, but I'm not going to be micromanaging like the traditional manager. The supportive supervisor really views their job as to take care of their personnel, even more than to accomplish the mission. So the innovative supervisor and the traditional supervisors both want to accomplish a mission. Now, as we said, the traditional manager is more likely to command. The innovative is more likely to encourage discussion and exchange of ideas and brainstorming. The supportive supervisor is the officer who says, I'm here for my men and women. I'm here for them. And so even if it means sacrificing some of their overall mission for the organization, they're willing to do it. So my job as supervisor is really to be your buffer, as we have here in this first point, buffer between you and upper level management. I'm going to protect you from any unfair criticism and discipline. I'm going to stand up for you. And you might say again, well, how's that different than innovative? Because we said innovative is more positive. But again, innovative, the attention is still mainly on the mission of the organization. How do we reduce crime? How do we reduce problems? Supportive, I'm willing to let crime go up if necessary, just so that my officers feel better about themselves and the job. So it's kind of the friendly boss. Maybe you've had this I'm your friend, you can talk to me. It's almost like they're a counselor rather than a manager. And so they're going to praise and reward officers a lot, but they're not going to discipline very much. And so, as I've been saying, they're more concerned about the well-being of the officers than what the rules and the regulations of the job are. Okay, or making sure that the officers actually do their jobs. Finally, and going back before I move on to active, supportive, again, there are times when maybe someone who is normally an innovative supervisor might take on a supportive approach. There's just been an officer whose partner has been shot and killed. Okay, right then they probably need a supportive manager, someone who's going to put their arm around them and talk to them, because they need that right now. Okay, so this isn't going to be the long-term style necessarily for this innovative supervisor, but in this situation, supportive is what this officer needs right now. Just like we talked about when the buildings are falling down, maybe that innovative officer needs to take a traditional approach, and I'm going to command. So again, the best supervisors are going to be able to know when to use which style, and they're going to be skilled at least a little bit in each of these. They're not most likely most likely to have one dominant style, but can they work in the other ones as well? The last style is the active supervisor. This is the person who probably wishes they never left the streets if they're a police officer. So they got promoted to sergeant, to captain, but maybe they still wish that they were out on patrol all the time. So they're going to lead by example. They're constantly going to be jumping ahead of their officers. They don't want to be behind the desk. They're going to be out on the streets. And we might say, well, that's a good thing. They should be out roaming. Yes, they should be. If you're a sergeant, be out in the streets, be available to your officers to help them solve any problems, to deal with situations. But these active officers, active leaders, they're wanting any excuse to jump in. So it's not just, I'll be here if you need me. It's, as soon as I hear about an important call, I'm going to go to it, and I'm going to take over for you. And so again, they want to take over all the time. And so that's not always best. You want your patrol officers to actually figure things out for themselves. But here, this active officer is saying, I'm going to come in, I'm going to take over. It's not that they're commanding, so they're not the traditional model, but they want to be the one handling the situation. So less likely to build teams, coach or mentor. They want to be doing the jobs themselves. Now they have usually a pretty good view of their subordinates. After they handle everything for their subordinates, are more likely to say, hey, we did a good job, even though their subordinates are probably sitting there saying, you did it. I wanted to do it, but you did it. So even though they have a positive view of their subordinates may not have a positive view of them, because they may feel like every time they're taking over from me. So it's maybe a teacher who does the math problem for you. Maybe the first time when you want to get out of the homework, that's a good thing, but when you actually want to learn it, you need to struggle with it. Or it's the coach who comes in and, does the thing for you instead of teaching you how to do it. So active leadership, it has its times when it's really good. Maybe you do want, when the person's a rookie, somebody to come in and show you how to do it. But if you're doing it all the time, you're probably going to step on some toes, and you're going to have some people that are working under you that say, why bother? Let them do it. They're going to take over anyway. Very strong sense of supervisory power, basically thinking, I can do it, I'm the best at it, and I'm going to show you how I'm the best at it all the time. Problem is, how can they actually balance being active in the field and controlling subordinates? Because again, they're supposed to be supervising, not doing the work. So they may be neglecting actually controlling their subordinates and actually making sure that people are doing the right thing.